Good afternoon. My name is Malik Zanabasawan, and today I'll be discussing a case study on Rahan's employment situation with Buzz Official Limited. We'll cover the key legal issues surrounding his injury, the employer's obligation, potential claims, and possible remedies available to Rohan. To begin, let me provide an overview of the case. Rohan has been employed by Buzz Official Limited since April 2022 in a physical demanding role that involves removing bees from the wasp nests. However, in February 2025, he was involved in a car accident that left him with permanent back injuries. Affecting his mobility, Rohan is seeking on whether he can pursue any legal claims against his employer, particularly regarding disability discrimination, harassment, and possible constructive dismissal. I'll also discuss the remedies he could potentially be entitled to, such as compensation or job adjustments. Let's now look at the key facts of the case. Rohan has been employed by the Buzz Official Limited since April 2020 in a physical demanding job. Following his car accident, Rohan sustained severe back injuries, leaving him unable to perform his previous role. He was advised by his doctors that he could not return to his old position but could potentially take on a more desk based role. A vacancy for an administrative assistant role was also available in his team at the moment. Miss Rose doubted Rohan's ability to do the job due to his lack of spreadsheet skills. On top of that, Miss Rose addressed him as a peg leg in a communication which Rohan found distressing. This raises a potential harassment issue. There are severe legal issues to consider in this case. The first one is disability discrimination. We need to assess whether Rohan's back injury qualifies as a disability under the Equality Act 2010, and if so, whether he is entitled to protection from discrimination. The next one would be reasonable adjustments. Employers have a duty to make reasonable adjustments for disabled employees. We will examine whether Buzz Official Limited has fulfilled this duty by considering whether the administrative assistant role could be a reasonable adjustment. The next will be harassment. Miss Rose's comment referring to Rohan as pegleg could potentially amount to harassment under the Equality Act 2010, as it may have created a hostile, degrading environment for Rohan. First, let's look at disability discrimination under the Equality Act 2010. The definition is that a person is considered disabled if they have a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial long term adverse effect on their ability to carry out normal day to day activities. Rohan's permanent back injury likely qualifies as disability, given the long term mobility issues and the effect it has on his daily activities. The key case law would be the Archibald versus 5 Council 2004. Case established that the employers must make reasonable adjustments to accommodate disabled employees. This will be crucial in assessing whether Buzz Official Limited met its legal obligations. Now let's turn to the reasonable adjustments. Under the Equality Act 2010, employers are required to make reasonable adjustments to enable disabled employees to carry out their jobs. In this specific case, Rohan has been advised that he cannot return to his physical demanding job. But yeah, he could work from a desk and in a desk based role. The administrative assistant role available in his company and his team could be considered a reasonable adjustment provided the company can accommodate his disability. Adjustments such as training on spreadsheets could make the role more feasible for Rohan. And if we talk about the reasonableness test, employers must consider factors such as the cost of adjustments, the nature of the job, and whether the company can afford to make those adjustments or not. Moving on, the next issue is harassment. Harassment is defined under the Equality Act 2010 as unwanted conduct related to a protected characteristic, which is disability in this case, that violates a person's dignity or creates an intimidating, hostile, or degrading environment. Miss Rose's comment calling Rohan peg-leg could be deemed to violate his dignity and create an offensive work environment. If Rohan finds this comment distressing, he may have grounds to claim harassment under the Equality Act, which would give him the right to seek the redress. Given the facts and the legal analysis, Rohan may have several potential claims. The first one would be the disability discrimination. If the Buzz Off Limited fails to make reasonable adjustments or discriminates against Rohan due to his disability, he could pursue a claim for disability discrimination. The next would be harassment. The comment by Miss Rose could constitute harassment, and Rohan may claim damages for injury to feelings and the emotional distress he had due to those comments. The other one would be the constructive dismissal. If Rohan feels forced to resign due to the lack of reasonable adjustments or the hostile work environment, he could potentially claim the constructive dismissal. If we talk about the remedies, Rohan may be entitled to compensatory damages for any emotional distress, injury to feelings, or financial losses suffered as a result of discrimination or harassment. He could also be reinstated or re engaged. If a tribunal finds in Rohan's favor, it could order Buzz Official Limited to reinstate him in a suitable role. He would be entitled to reasonable adjustments if Rohan is not already accommodated in a suitable role. The tribunal could order the company to provide reasonable adjustments, such as like the job trainings or the role modifications that would basically help Rohan to get the proper reasonable adjustment that he is entitled to. Talking further, while Rohan have valid claims, there are some weaknesses in the case, which includes like Miss Rose's judgment. Like it could be argued that Miss Rose prematurely dismissed Rohan's suitability for the administrative role, like without fully considering all the reasonable adjustments, such as the spreadsheet training. In regarding to the reasonable adjustments, Rohan's lack of skill in the spreadsheet use could be overcome with reasonable training. Buzz Official Limited may be expected to provide this training. And if we talk like in the employer's defenses, Buzz Official Limited might argue that the administrative assistant role is not a reasonable adjustment or that costs associated with the necessary training are prohibitive. In the conclusion, I would say that Rohan has potential claims for disability discrimination, harassment, and a possible constructive dismissal. Buzz Official Limited has an obligation to make reasonable adjustments, and Ms. Rose's comment could constitute a harassment. Rohan should consider and must consider pursuing these claims, and his potential remedies could include compensation or adjustments to his role that accommodate his disability. Thank you.